I stagger back, my head spinning, every nerve ending on fire as I take off running into the wheat. The crops lash my arms. The night swallows me. No moon or stars to guide me, but I know these fields. I listen for the sounds of them crashing through the wheat behind me, but they don't come. I'm trying to concentrate on the air going in and out of my lungs, the relentless pounding of my heart, but my mind keeps going back to the breeding barn, nothing but blood, limbs, and pure black eyes. I don't know what's happening, but I have to pull myself together, for Ali's sake. I have to be smart about this. I don't want to get her in trouble, but I saw her bare chest, her naked body. I saw her crawl out of a dead cow, for Christ's sake. I know Tyler put her up to this. He must be controlling her in some way. Whether it's drugs or some kind of prank, she's in way over her head. She needs help. When I glimpse the light shining down from the equipment shed onto my truck, I know what I have to do. Same thing I did after I found my dad. I have to get Sheriff Ely. He and Dad were friends. He's not part of the Preservation Society. He'll have to hear me out this time. I roll down the windows and listen closely as I ease down the drive toward Route 17. It's eerily quiet, the same way it gets right before the weather turns. No insects scrabbling over the wheat, no wind rustling the crops. It's like Mother Nature knows something's coming. I can't take my eyes off the wheat. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for. Monsters. The streets are dead. Everything's closed up. Even the quick trip's dark, which means it's past 1 in the morning. I pull into Sheriff's gravel driveway, in front of an old farmhouse about half a mile east of town, and lay on my horn until a light comes on upstairs. Mrs. Ely peeks through the lacy curtains, her hair all coiled up in those pink spongy curlers. I hear them bickering as the porch light flickers on. Positioning myself directly in front of his door, I wait. There's a bug zapper right next to my head. The constant low hum, along with the occasional electrocution, isn't helping my nerves. Clay. Sheriff opens the door just a crack. Greg Tilford's on duty tonight. No, not him. My voice comes out shakier than I'd like. I need to talk to you. He blinks up at me, the bags under his eyes dark and heavy. You sleepwalking, son? Need me to call your ma, or Dr. Perry? No, listen to me, it's Ollie. She's out at the Neely Ranch, and something bad happened to her. His thick gray eyebrows merge together. The Neely Ranch. Please. I look down at my boots for a moment before I meet his gaze again. It's important. Come on in, he says with a heavy sigh, his shoulders collapsing under his worn plaid flannel robe as he shuffles down the hall into the kitchen and turns on the light. Wait. I take off after him. We have to go. You have to come with me. You have to see what they're doing out there. They. He settles himself in one of the oak chairs crowded around a small table. I thought you said it was just Ollie? Ollie and Tyler, I say as I pace the linoleum. But Jimmy, Tammy, and Ben are there too. He shakes his head. So this is about the Preservation Society again. No, it's not about that. Not really. The floorboards above me groan, making me flinch. Dear, Sheriff calls. As long as you're up, can you get Clay one of those calming teas? I crane my neck to see Mrs. Ely hovering at the top of the stairs, listening. The wood buckles under her weight as she comes down the stairs. She glares at me as she crosses over to the sink. Her face is all scrunched up like one of those fancy Persian cats. Let's start from the beginning. He pushes a chair out, motioning for me to sit. What were you doing out at the Neely Ranch? We talked about this. That's trespassing. Reluctantly, I take a seat. Today at school, I saw this mark on Ali's neck. Tyler has the same mark on his wrist. And then Ollie came over to my truck and told me to meet her out at the breeding barn at midnight. Hogwash, Mrs. Ely blurts. Ollie would never do such a thing. She's a dear, Sheriff interrupts. The tea. She purses her lips so tight you'd need a crowbar to pry her mouth open. Okay, Clay. Then what? So, I ignored it, tried to put it out of my head, and when I got back to the combine, the calf was gone. Just vanished. Sheriff's eyes narrow. Hold up. What's this about a calf? Crazy, just like his daddy, Mrs. Ely mutters as she dunks a tea bag in a mug of microwaved water. My jaw clenches. There's 100 things I want to say right now, but I hold my tongue. Why don't you head up to bed, dear? He says gently, but the vein pulsing in his temple gives him away. She slams the mug down in front of me, sending steaming piss-colored water sloshing over the side. He waits until she's upstairs, the bedroom door crashing shut, before turning back to me. Go on now. What calf, Clay? This morning I ran over a calf with the combine. And then the Wiggins kid said something about it this afternoon. The Wiggins kid? He glances around the room, his eyes locking on the gun belt hanging by the back door, and I know exactly what he's thinking. Look, I'm not crazy and I'm not doing meth. The calf was there. It was real. I don't know how, or why, but when I came back from school to dig it out of the cutting blades, it was gone. He gives me an exasperated look. I know what it sounds like, but tonight, I woke up from a nightmare. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So, you had a nightmare? No, I woke up from the nightmare and when I went to shut my window, I saw a glow coming from the Neely ranch. A glow, he repeats, one eyebrow raised. Yeah, they lit a bunch of candles in the breeding barn. He clasps his hands tight in front of him, resting them on the table. I know you and Ollie were close at one time, and I know you and Tyler have your issues, but his daddy owns the ranch. Not against the law to entertain on your own property. Entertain. I struggle to find my next words. Ollie crawled out of a dead cow's stomach. Naked. Covered in blood. He leans back in his chair, which creaks so loudly I think it might snap in two. His mouth stretches into a thin, grim line. Tell you what, I'll give Ollie's folks a call first. I take in a deep breath. That's a start. He gets out the directory. It's painful watching him find the M's and then scan each name. 6310347. I call out her number, my knee bouncing up and down like a jackhammer. And I want it on speakerphone. Sheriff gives me a weary look, but complies. The volume's low, but I can hear each agonizing ring until someone finally picks up. Hello. Mr. Miller answers, groggily. Charlie, it's Ely. Sorry to bother you like this, but I've got Clay Tate over here, and he claims he saw your daughter out at the Neely Ranch tonight. That she might be in some kind of trouble. Not this again. Mr. Miller yawns. We went to the football dinner at the Preservation Society, and then she went straight to bed. Tell him to check her room, I whisper. Ely shushes me. Would you mind just checking her room for me? Put the boy's mind at ease. What's going on? I hear Mrs. Miller ask in the background. Fine. Mr. Miller sighs as he puts the phone down. I can hear the springs creak as he gets out of bed. I stare at the Elvis clock mounted on the wall above Sheriff Ely's head. Each sway of his hips equals a second. Each one slower than the last. We're wasting time, I whisper as I edge forward on my seat. God only knows what's going on out there now. Their eyes were black and the snug as a bug, Mr. Miller says as he comes back on the line. Like I said, sleeping like a baby since 10. I bolt out of my chair so fast it topples. That's impossible. I just saw her. Little advice, Mr. Miller says. Unless he's ready to join the council, you better keep him away from the Preservation Society. Kid's a loose cannon, just like his dad and you. Thanks for checking, Sheriff interrupts as he fumbles to take it off speakerphone. You have a good night now. He hangs up and looks at me. I know that look. Pity. He's in on it. Don't you see that? I start pacing again. My dad found something. Something they don't want me to see. My dad must have said something to you. You were best friends. You have to help me. Clay. Sheriff stands, planting his hand firmly on my shoulder. I didn't want to have to tell you this, but your dad came over here ranting and raving about the same types of things on the night he died. Said he had to stop the evil before it was born. After he hacked up every pregnant cow on that ranch, he ripped off his own fingernails trying to pry open that stainless steel door to get at Neely's prize bull. Whether it was drugs, schizophrenia, or whatever, he was seeing things. Violent things that weren't real. He kept talking about the seed, the sixth generation, a golden calf, a prophecy, and sacrifices. He kept going on about some secret room at the Preservation Society. All kinds of crazy things. I feel the blood drain from my face. Why didn't you tell me about any of this? I came to you before. My point is, he tightens his grip, unless you want to end up just like him or at Oakmoor, I suggest you get your ducks back in a row. You've got your mom and sisters to look after now. Don't you think they've suffered enough? Feeling completely gutted, I think of Noodle in that white eyelet dress she insisted on wearing to Dad's funeral, because it was his favorite. She held my face in her hands and said, "We pick what we want to remember, and I pick good." I feel my shoulders cave. What if Sheriff's right? What if it's all in my head? Get some sleep, Clay, he says as he leads me out the door. We've all had nightmares from what happened out there. Trust me, no one wanted to believe your dad more than I did, but it's time to move on. It's for your own good. And you heard the man. Unless you're going to join the council, you need to stay away from the Preservation Society, and like it or not, that includes Ollie Miller now. In a daze, I walk back to my truck. And Clay. I turn, waiting for some last bit of wisdom, something that will help me make sense of all this. Who do you think's going to win the big game tomorrow? I've got my money on Midland, but without you playing quarterback, it's going to be a close call. I know he's probably just trying to lighten the mood, take my mind off all this, but it feels like I just got sucker punched. Who gives a shit about football at a time like this? Without another word, I get back in my truck and tear out of there. Gripping the steering wheel, I clamp down all the hurt and anger raging inside of me. I can't go off the rails. Not now. I know I should go home, pull myself together, but I find myself going to the one place I know I shouldn't.